What's up, people? So I've been screen printing on YouTube for a little over 5 years now. And in that time, I feel like I've become a big proponent of DIY screen printing. And basically that just means building some of your own equipment. Maybe not things like a printing press, conveyor dryer, flash dryer, but instead build things like an exposure unit, washout booth, screen drying cabinet. This helps lessen the financial burden of just getting into screen printing. But here I am 5 years later, a little heavier, a little grayer, and I'm looking back and wondering, was DIY the right route to take? Or should I have just said, screw it, stop being a cheapskate and just buy the dang equipment? I'm gonna answer that by looking back at two of my bigger projects that I've made here on the channel and seeing if they've held up over time. First up is my exposure unit. Ah yes, my beautiful exposure unit in all its glory. I was so proud of this thing when I finished it. I've had a bunch of people tell me that they were inspired by it, and some of them took that design and improved on it. Actually added things like a timer or a vacuum seal. For me though, I'm using the exact same exposure unit that I built in that video. I haven't changed anything about it. I haven't even had to change the LEDs or the bug lights inside, and it's still working great. Now, if I were to go back and start over again, would I change anything about it? And I think I would. First off, I built it to be about 10 inches high, and I don't think it needs to be that high. I think if it were more like 7 or 8 inches high, that would probably work better. That way the LEDs sit a little bit closer to that surface level. I don't know, might help with the exposure times a little bit. And then the other thing I think I would change is adding a timer. If I actually did the research on how to add a timer to it, just makes things a lot easier. Now, I know there was some debate in the comments section about whether or not I should have used Starfire glass over just regular tempered glass. And side note, I can't really get this out of my head, but anytime I say Starfire, it sounds like some sort of like fantasy character, like a Steven Universe or Sailor Moon type of cartoon character. In any case, Starfire glass is a low iron glass that is crystal clear. And when I was doing my research online about what type of materials I would need to build an exposure unit, I'd come across something that said for really detailed designs, it might be beneficial to have like a crystal clear low iron glass like Starfire glass. Now, does that really work better? To be honest, I don't know. I think it is possible that regular glass could be used and would be good enough for most designs. I think I was really just thinking in terms of like fine details and halftones. I didn't want there to be any kind of obstruction between the film and the light, so crystal clear glass is what I was looking for. If you have built a unit like mine and are using regular glass, I would love to know if it holds up, and particularly if it holds up with halftones. And then let me know in the comments below, does that regular glass make a difference? And then the other point of debate in that comment section, I think, is whether or not I spent too much money building that exposure unit. I spent about $500 on all the supplies and materials to build that thing, and some of y'all had a problem with that, thinking that that was too much for a DIY unit. And to that I say, I don't know, go take a look at screenprinting.com, Ryonet's website, and take a look at their exposure units. For something that is the same size and the same type, like with the compression lid and everything, you know, that thing's gonna run you at like $1,500. So I don't know, $1,500, $500, one number is a lot higher than the other. And some of y'all forget, I built that thing in 2021 when COVID was still going pretty strong, and that was really affecting the cost of building supplies at the time. I think that if I were to build that thing today, I probably would save maybe like $100. The other project that I wanted to go over was my filtration system. Now, this thing comparatively was a lot more straightforward and simple. You know, it's just a big plastic bin with some screens, sump pump, some tubing, and a couple of water filters. There's really not much to this build, and it's totally doable as a DIY project. And for me, I still use it, still works. However, I will say it does require a lot more upkeep than I originally thought. Maybe it's just the nature of a filtration system, but you need to stay on top of things like keeping the screens clean, switching out the water filters. If you don't stay on top of that stuff, it'll get clogged up and just become unusable. The screens that I use need to be cleaned out every month or so, basically just like reclaiming screens. And then the water filters need to be switched out maybe every 3 months or so. In terms of things that I've had to upgrade since originally building it in that video, really it just comes down to one piece of equipment, and that's the sump pump. The original sump pump that I used in that build was a piece of crap. It was cheap. I think it was like 40 bucks. It lasted me maybe 3 months and then it crapped out on me. I think what it is the chemical bath that builds up inside of the bin. It just like eats away, and yeah, it just didn't hold up. So I have since upgraded to a better sump pump. I think it was like $120. So with that, I think that would bring the total of that project to maybe like $300 to $350. I can't really remember, but still a lot cheaper than like a professional filtration system that you would get from like Ryonet. I think their filtration system is about $1,100 to $1,200. Even with upkeep and, you know, switching out the filters and everything, you're still going to be saving money there. So, to answer the question, is DIY the right way to go? I'm sure this is not a surprise to anybody, but I would say yes. However, maybe it is really dependent on your situation. If you are like me, getting into screen printing, you did it at a very slow pace. You just bought like one piece of equipment at a time, and you didn't have all the money up front to buy every piece of equipment. So that meant I had to get a little creative and build things from scratch. So if this is like you don't have the money to just buy everything, then I think building is a totally viable option. That way you can save your money and put that towards the more important equipment that you can't build, like a printing press, conveyor dryer, flash dryer, that kind of stuff. But let me know in the comments, are you the DIY type, or are you the type to just say, screw it, I'm buying everything, not wasting my time? I think if you're starting a screen printing company, you have to be at least a little handy. You have to be willing to get your hands a little dirty, right? Plus, I mean, I didn't really go over this in the video, but now, having a little perspective on it all, I really do feel like building your own exposure unit or your own equipment in general allows you to have a little bit more ownership over the entire screen printing process. You know, you have a piece of equipment that you built with your own hands, and I don't know, I feel like that just connects you to the process a little bit more. I feel like I'm dangerously close to some hippy-dippy nonsense here, but screen printing is a very hands-on technical skill. It's a craft, it's an art form. You know, you use your hands throughout the entire process. And I think building your own exposure unit, you know, it makes you more invested, gives you more ownership over the whole process, and therefore gives you maybe a bigger sense of pride in your work. But I don't know. That's just me. Well, that's gonna do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. I think I'm in YouTube jail at the moment. YouTube sent me an email saying that I needed to get my engagement up or they were going to demonetize my channel. I don't know how all that works, but admittedly, yeah, I've been pretty absent from YouTube lately. So liking, commenting, subscribing, all of that stuff really helps the channel out. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.